there is an intention, there's a clear-cut objective in the mind that I want to cheat somebody, I want to make some gain, I want to make some money, so I'm doing this particular activity which is unethical in nature. People try to understand the loopholes that are available in a law. They want to use that loophole, they want to try those sections, they want to weaken the system, and they want to go forward and destroy the investor confidence altogether. Good morning and welcome to the session 4 on Unit 5 in Company Law, where we are going to speak about the company frauds and scams. Now, is there a country in this world where you have not seen about fraud and scams? Are there so many corporations in this world which have not gone through this exercise of fraud and scams? But anyway, in this session, we are going to look forward for what exactly this fraud means. So moving forward, let's first try to understand the meaning of fraud. In the broadest sense, a fraud is an intentional deception made for personal gain or to damage any other person or entity. Look at the ideology behind fraud. It is an intentional purpose. So which means to say that there is an intention, there's a clear-cut objective in the mind that I want to cheat somebody, I want to make some gain, I want to make some money, so I'm doing this particular activity which is unethical in nature. So my cause of action can go forward and create a damage to a company or to another person. So my intention here is very, very clear in terms of causing something untoward altogether so that the system collapses. I might make a personal gain out of it, no doubt about it, but then my gain is a loss for hundreds and thousands of investors, hundreds and thousands of people who are dependent on the company. Now, moving forward, a wrongful or a criminal deception intended resulting in financial or a personal gain. This is where I am again using the word wrongful or criminal intention. I know that what I am trying to do is not good for the society, is not good for the system, it is not good for the investors, but it is good for me. So there is a criminal intention behind me. There is a criminal ideology behind me that I want to make a personal gain out of this. I want to make a personal financial gain out of the system. So that's why I am involving myself in a fraud. Moving forward, the Indian law comes into picture where it says Section 17 of the Act defines fraud, which includes any type of acts committed by a party, very clearly here, of to a contract with his convenience or by his agents intended to deceive anybody. So this is the word which we have to keep in mind. My ideology here is very, very clear. I want to deceive somebody. I want to cheat somebody. I have got into a contract, but my ideology is not to follow the contract correctly, follow the rules properly, but I want to cheat somebody. I want to misuse the ideology, misuse the entire platform that has been given to me. So that's why I would say that what I'm trying to do here is that induce people into a wrong sense, enter into a contract and destroy the entire activity. That is very, very wrongful nature that we are trying to do. That is very, very wrongful about the person in which we are trying to getting inside. The suggestion as a fact of that which is not true by anyone who does not believe it, or it's believed to be a true fact. Now let's try to understand the statement. I'm either trying to cover up the issue or I'm trying to make you believe that it is true. But unfortunately, the reality always pops up and tells you clearly it is wrong. What you have done is a criminal intention, is a criminal factor altogether. The active concealment of the fact here that has been clearly promoted by the knowing of knowledge or belief or promise which has been made altogether without any intention of performing it. So that is also very, very clear. All these factors are dangerous. Why? Because they are trying to do something against the system, against the entire entity altogether. So criminally, when you look at that word fraud that is popping up there, it shows very, very clearly that you are trying to do something against the law, against the system that could cause a heavy loss to the entire system, the company ideology, the corporate system altogether. Moving forward, now let's talk about the regulatory legislations. When I use the word regulatory legislation, these are all the laws that comes into factor in terms of your corporate system or towards the company. So the first one is the Indian Contract Act, the Penal Code, the Prevention of Corruption Act, Prevention of Money Laundering, Companies Act of 1956, the Clause of 49 Listing Agreement, and the CARO 2003. So these are all the laws which will actually govern over the companies and try to prevent them from getting into any sort of problem or any sort of misconceptions altogether. So when you understand this factor very, very clearly, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to hold the organization strongly from not entering into any kind of cheating or any kind of activities that can destroy the image of the company. So when a company intentionally tries to get into corruption, bribe, money laundering, or any kind of activity, it knows that it is destroying the organization, the system altogether. So, but that is where you need to put a complete break and say, I am not going to do this. I don't intend to do this anymore. So that's why this becomes very, very important for all of us to understand and move forward. These laws have been kept for us to prevent the system getting corrupted. We are not just looking at these laws as a factor of controlling measure alone, but we are looking at these laws as a guidance also. So tomorrow, when you come across any of these kind of misuse or fraudulent activities, using these laws, using these sections and clauses, you can go back and correct the company. Moving forward, the types of fraud that we are going to look into: fraudulent financial statements, employee fraud, vendor fraud, customer fraud, investment scams, bankruptcy, miscellaneous kind of activities. All these kind of frauds are not new to us. We have heard about them many a times in the newspaper, in social media, and probably every single television channel as far as possible. But why do these frauds and scams happen in a country, in an organization? The reason is very, very clear. At one point of time, people try to understand the loopholes that are available in a law. They want to use that loophole, they want to try those sections, they want to weaken the system, and they want to go forward and destroy the investor confidence altogether. So by bringing in these kind of scams and frauds, what happens is that the common man gets completely affected. See, in the case of Harshad Mehta, or in the case of Satyam, or in the case of DHFL today, or IIFL altogether, or several other cases like this where we are going to speak about frauds and scams that are happening, in fact, even in Yes Bank for that matter of time, what has happened here is that people have lost money, people have lost confidence, and people have also gone to the level where they have committed suicide. Now, this is a very, very important factor, that any fraud or scam can have a far-reaching impact or effect rather than just the investment alone. So when you talk about a vendor fraud or a customer fraud or any of these kind of activities, that has a very, very far-reaching impact that can destroy the minds of the investors. So every time when you present a fraudulent statement or when you're doing some fraudulent activity altogether, that is going to have a serious impact, serious effect on the upcoming days, on the upcoming institutions and the financial markets altogether. That is why SEBI or the agencies that are monitoring the Indian activities, the financial markets activity, warn the companies clearly. It is always good to report loss rather than to have a fraudulent gain. This is a very, very important statement. Please make a note of it. You can always report a loss. No problem. You can always go back and tell your investors that, yes, I made a loss. I was not able to make profit due to following reasons. The investors would still accept you. But if you go back and tell the investors that you made $100 million or you made 1,000 crores out of a fraudulent gain, you are not going to stay back in the market forever. So it is always important for the organization that they understand the impact of creating a fraud, because once they lose the trust, they lose the image, they lose the confidence factor, they will not be able to re-establish them as a great company. Moving forward, the financial statement fraud, which has been done with the East India Company, the Mudra scheme, the Enron fiasco, the Satyam Enron of India, and the Harshad Mehta scam altogether. Now, East India Company in those days itself had been got into problems because of the fraudulent reporting of statements. The Mudra scam, it was started by the, I would like to talk about the Haridas Mundra, who actually started off with a bogus scheme, and he had gone about cheating the LIC worth about 125 crores altogether, which is a very, very serious fraud that was created. The Enron, which was once said to be the most innovative company, way back in the year for 2000, when Fortune magazine had rated one of the best companies in the world to work with. But then after they started reporting a loss of $618 million, and then one fine morning when the company collapsed because they bought in fraudulent statements, had a very serious impact in terms of accounting. With Enron, the great accounting auditing company called as Arthur Andersen was also caught under this particular situation. Followed by Satyam, which was the biggest corporate scandal that happened in India way back in the year 2005 to 2009 when I'm talking about. Why? Because in the year 2009, when the managing director, CEO and chairman of the Satyam Computer Services, namely Mr. B. Ramalinga Raju, was caught by the government of India for bringing in false statements and cheating the public worth tuned to almost 8,000 crores. It was a very big effect in terms of the corporate scandal. He had gone ahead and bought in all fraudulent statements, and all of a sudden, a great company like Satyam, which was doing extremely well in the market, one of the leader in IT services, just collapsed because every single statement was bogus. But at the end of the day, both the people who were involved in that scam were arrested and they had accepted to their fact. Followed by Harshad Mehta scam, where he had bought in, fake bank receipts and inflated the market, and one fine morning, the market completely collapsed because of the cheating that was done by Mr. Harshad Mehta altogether. All these fraudulent activities had a very, very far-reaching impact in the Indian market and in the outside world also. So definitely the fraudulent and scam activities will have a great impact, will have a seriously a bad effect in the minds of people. Followed by the common types of fraud, where we talk about the manipulation, falsification, misrepresentation, application factors. And when you are going to talk about these factors, the intentionally false or misappropriation of assets, theft factors, improper statements, all these kind of factors are definitely going to impact the scenario to a very great extent. Why? Because I'm telling you is that all these common types of fraud are with the same intention, that I want to cheat people, I want to take the money away from the investors, and I want to make the company suffer. Now, moving forward, when we are talking about how management encourages fraud, is it true that company also involves in the fraud? Is it true that the people of the company are the actual culprits in terms of making this fraud happen? Let's have a look into it. The first thing that comes here is the responsibility, accountability, and authority not established in the document. So that's very, very important in terms of understanding the authority factor. If you have not given responsibility and authority and it's not been properly monitored, it is a high risk chance that your company will land up into trouble. The goals and objectives are neither established or monitored. So you are not feeling anything about the company. You don't have the passion to look forward in terms of the goals, in terms of the management. No written policies or procedure, no proper internal controls, no separation of duties, no proper documentation, no independent inventory, inconsistent application, that the wrong treatment of employees. All these factors actually lead to a lot of problems in terms of fraud. Now, what is happening here is that when the management cannot straighten their process, when they cannot be correct, when they cannot be ethical, when they don't understand the system properly and they don't do things accordingly, automatically the system collapses. The system goes for a complete toss altogether. So that's why I would always say that it's the responsibility of the management to understand and to take things forward. And they want to do it in a particular manner altogether. If they are inconsistent, if they are not able to run a system properly, if they don't have any processes, probably automatically the company lands into problem and everybody will get involved in fraudulent activities. Moving forward, what can the organization do? The first thing is that they have to create an ethical environment. They have to lead by example. The corporate code of conduct, call-in services for reporting the factor, the reliable internal controls. I would like to give the example of Infosys and the Tata Group here. Both the companies have been known for their ethical practices. Why are they known for ethical practices? Is right from the beginning, they have understood the fact that unless and until you maintain a clear-cut policy in terms of reporting, in terms of following all the values of the company, you will not be able to set an example to others. So right from the beginning, from the top management till the last person in the company, the code of conduct, the principles, how you need to behave, how you need to understand the activity is very, very important, and that has been clearly told by the company. Unless and until you are able to set a bridge of commonality of the factors that needs to be understood, you will not be able to come over this fraud. So that is why I would always say that you have to report to the functions very, very clearly. Moment you see a problem, moment you understand that there is some challenge, call the top management, call for a revision, go for a checking, understand it. You might take time. The process might be slow. A lot of operations might get hindered. But then at the end of the day, you are going to emerge as a winner by bringing in a clean image of yourself, by giving in a clean check saying that you have not done any mistake. What is more important for a company rather than the brand image, the trust factor altogether? If you are not going to create the trust, you are going to go into the unethical ways, then automatically the company will collapse. Now, adopt anti-corruption, anti-bribery practices as a process itself. It is not an ideology, a principle. It's a process wherein you will be able to assess the specific corruptions that are happening in business, development of detailed anti-corruption at any point of time, taking of bribe or giving bribe should be avoided in the companies, followed by implementation of the policies, self-monitoring. How are you able to make the employees believe that they themselves should involve in every single policy, reporting of the policies and the related programs, which is very, very important, independent assurance and effectiveness, so that every policy that has been implemented is checked and we are able to understand how far the policy is effective in terms of controlling the issues. With this, I come to the conclusion of the session. I hope and believe that the session was highly interesting, useful, and of a great resource to you. In the upcoming session, we are going to talk about the credit rating agencies for the companies, which is a very, very important factor to understand the credibility of a company. Until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me on this wonderful session today.